Welcome to Bound by Books. I am one of your hosts, Danielle Bannister. I also write under Danny Bannister. I write contemporary romance, sweet and suspenseful and sexy. And I'm joined today by one of my co-hosts, Sherri. Hey, Sherri, tell us what you write.
Hey Danielle, my name is Sherri Hayes, and I write steamy contemporary adult romance and BDSM erotic romance. So if you're looking for some steam, you can head
Got
my
all
way.
your bedroom needs covered. Fictional bedroom
We got all the
needs.
yes, fictional, all the fictional bedroom needs. Yeah, I don't want to be in your bedroom. You can keep your bedroom all to yourself.
That's right. So happy New Year, first and foremost.
Yes, happy New Year.
The new year has always filled with a lot of potential to get things right. It's a fresh start. It's a reset button. It's the reboot all of our laptops have needed. Time to clear the cache and just, do all the things. And so today's sort of podcast is sort of about that. It's sort of how to tackle this sort of year. And one way that you can do that as a writer is to plan for your writing year. And since you and I are the planners of the group,
more so than any of the others, yes. I'm not quite to your level of planning.
But today we can sort of talk about, how each of us as self-proclaimed planners plan out our writing year, however detailed or vague it might be. And perhaps those, listening, watching can go, you know what, I can do something like that, or ooh, I want to try that. So it's just here's what we do.
It's kind of like the writing process in general. There is no one right way to write a story, and there is really no one right way to plan to write that story. And so we're going to kind of just give you a couple of options, a couple ideas,
maybe something will resonate,
how we approach things, and then you can run with it and kind of play and see what works for you. So and just for those of you who have been following the podcast for a long time, you probably know that Danielle is the planner of our group. Whenever we need something planned out, she's it. And we just put it in her lap and let her plan it out. She has this spreadsheet of all of our podcasts of when everything's being recorded and when it's going live and who it is. She's got it all planned out. It's color coded and everything on an Excel spreadsheet. So she's got it. She's got it covered.
I'm single, so I have a lot of free time. I mean, that's really all I'll say.
And Marianne is like, she's getting her toes wet. She got her toes wet on the planning end last year. Danielle and I kind of drug her into it a little bit. And so she's still experimenting with her process. And then Tina is just, she has a plan.
She's more of a vague,
but she's a really vague, like she knows, like in this month I'm going to write stuff. Yes.
She also gets it done. So like, I mean, you can be like a vague planner, but as long as you're, achieving the goals that you want to do, it works, right? If you're checking off the things, that you need to get done, then your plan, however chaotic it might be, works.
And I think that's what it really comes down to, though, is does the plan actually accomplish what you want to accomplish? If you are a vague planner and you get to the end of the year and you're like, where did the year go? I got nothing I wanted to get done accomplished. Then maybe you need to go back and look at how you're approaching your planning. Maybe vague planning doesn't work for you. Maybe you need a more concrete plan so that you can execute it better. But that's an individual thing. All of us work. My plan is vaguer than Danielle's because my schedule is a lot more chaotic. The same with Tina. Tina's schedule is because she has
publishing
She,
company
even
involved.
though Danielle has a full-time job outside of writing, she does have set hours.
Mhm.
So she knows that during these hours, every day, 5 days a week, she is working her day job. And when she's not there, she kind of
I have
knows
set
what,
times for my writing too,
right.
so I can schedule it. Right.
Right. Whereas with me and Tina, because of we are self-employed
Right.
outside of our writing, um, our lives get, we can have a plan,
Right.
all well and good, but
If the
life
business
happens.
needs you go there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to have a little more flexibility in our writing
Sure.
schedules.
Sure.
But we still do, to some extent, have writing schedules. Tina
Right.
just happens to cram hers all in, small chunks,
It's
which works
organized
for her.
chaos. I think she's got like
It
an
is.
organized chaos system going on. There's nothing wrong with that, to each his own.
No,
But
again,
I'm
if it works for you.
curious because you are sort of that. It's harder to sort of plan. What is your plan? Like, how do you approach your writing year? Are you looking at like, what, these are the projects that I'd like to do for the year, and then you kind of assume it'll get done, or how do you approach your year?
Well, I approach my year honestly one project at a time. So I have a really vague outline for the year. And the closer it gets to the current time frame, the more specific that is. So I have kind of laid out my whole 2023 as to what I would like to accomplish and roughly when I would like to get each project done.
Yeah.
However, I also have and I didn't bring it with me because this is my big, so I have a big planner. We're going to be talking, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my planner. Sorry. I have a big planner that I do 6 months at a time because I think we've talked about this last year. I do my planning. My planner actually is a day-by-day planner.
Day by day. Sorry.
So I have, unlike a lot of planners, which I know, Danielle, yours is a weekly planner, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Weekly. Yep.
And so, you divide yours by week. I actually have a individual day set aside where I have a whole page in my planner that I can break down my day. And that really, I found, works for me best because my days are all so different. So I sit down, again, I break things down so specifically because I have my year kind of really vague, and then I have my month, which is a little more specific. And then I have every Sunday, I sit down and I plan out my week, which again is a little more specific than the month. But then every night, I sit down before I end my day and I plan out the next day. And that schedule is very specific. Sometimes, that has times, and I want to try to spend this amount.
Are you
this
doing
is what time
personal
I'm gonna get up.
tasks as well as
Yes.
writing tasks? So you're covering all the bases in one planner. It has everything that you're doing for that day.
Well, yes and no, because it has all of my, I guess, general stuff. But then I have a second planner. Yes, I know. I have a second planner, which actually, and I'm going to show you one of this, if for those of you like you, so you can kind of see it. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but it actually details this is my marketing calendar. So now this is in a weekly format, but this lays out, okay, I'm posting on Facebook this day, and what I'm posting. Like, what am I posting on Facebook on Monday? What am I posting on Facebook on Tuesday?
Yeah,
when am I
that's
posting
hard
on Goodreads?
To know, like, I feel like I'm supposed to do something and post something to Facebook, and you might write down, oh, post to Facebook, but what are you posting?
But what am I posting?
Take the guesswork out. And I'm changing a banner today. I'm, whatever it is. Yeah?
Exactly. And so I do that calendar every Sunday as well. So Sundays are kind of my big plan days for the week.
An admin day. Yeah, you kind of sort of need an admin day to take care of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff because they run away from you, those tasks.
You really, really do. But that's kind of how I break it down because again, and that allows me because it's easier for me to know, okay, tomorrow it's going to be a busy work day, like for my outside of my author business. So I can't schedule a whole lot of writing stuff,
Right.
author business during that same day, or vice versa. Maybe it's a light business day.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I can get all this stuff done and I'll have this block of time here and this block of time there and I can just do all this stuff. But I don't necessarily know that days in advance,
Right.
which is why I kind
Which
of
is why a
have it
daily
scheduled.
planner is
Which is
probably
why
ideal for your situation. And that, planners are very individual. Sometimes people will say, "Oh,
Yes.
I've tried a planner and it doesn't work."
Mhm.
Well, maybe that type of planner just doesn't work for you. You
It
really
took
have
me
to
a
find a
while
planner
to
to find.
find.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really did. It took, and I know you're the same way.
Yeah.
You have a specific type of planner, a
I
specific
like
planner
it.
that
I like it
you
laid out in a certain way. And yeah.
Yep, that
Yeah.
works for you. And it took me probably 5 years to find this planner that I do, and I've used it for the last 3 years, and I
Yeah.
love it. And it is the only planner that I have found, and I have looked at tons of them, that works for me. I like the layout. It gives me plenty of space.
Yep.
It costs a lot of money, let me tell you that.
Well,
It
if you're
really
only
does.
buying it every 6 months, you got you're
Yeah.
sinking that money down twice. But if it keeps you on task and it
Mhm.
keeps you organized, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's about it costs about $75 for a
Every
6-month
6 months, yeah.
planner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an expensive planner, but again, I've tried other I believe me, I've tried to go the cheaper route and
Yeah.
find something else that I can use, and I end up not using it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not as productive. So I really had to weigh the fact of, is it worth me
Sure.
spending
Sure.
the money to get something that actually works for me,
Right.
or trying to save a little money and then it literally just sits on the shelf and it just collects dust because it doesn't work for me.
Right.
So so why don't you share because like I said, yours is very different than mine. I know
I
this.
have a few more.
So
I have a few more steps. Mine is a 7-step process.
oh gosh. See, and I thought mine was complicated.
But step one is get a planner, right?
Okay.
It's, get yourself some sort of planning system, whether that's a paper planner, whether that's,
Mhm.
an e-planner. You need some place to write down your goals because you're not going to remember them. You're not going to know that you've done
Right.
the things that you need to do. You're going to lose track. So find a
Mhm.
planner. Step one is easy. Get a planner. You can get those anywhere. Just get
Well,
a
it's not though. We just talked about that. Finding a good planner is not always easy.
I said a planner. I didn't say a good
A
one or
planner.
the planner. Just
Okay,
a
okay.
planner.
A
A
planner.
planner will work. And ideally get a planner that has a full year scope somewhere. Usually in the back of every planner, there'll be a full year that you can
Mhm.
look at. Because step two is looking at the full calendar year and looking at, okay, what days, months am I not going to want to release a book in? What,
Mm.
it's my birthday. I don't want to release on this weekend. It's, the holiday season. I don't want to release this weekend. It's summer. I'm going on a cruise. Don't release this week, and sort of cross out the months or the days that are like, no, don't release anywhere
Mhm.
near here. If it's near an election, maybe don't do an election because nobody's looking at books. So, you're thinking about things like that, not just stuff that's within your own personal life, but what's going on in the greater world
Right.
that, maybe I don't want to release
Right. You got to
now.
take those things into
You got to
consideration.
take those into consideration. So then, step three is, well, now you've seen what days aren't viable, what days or months are viable, what are a typical, a release day. So if you're releasing only one book a year, you can look at it and go, all right, here's the month I think that I would like to release it in. Or if you're
Mhm.
somebody like me who's doing 4 releases a year, what
Mhm.
months are, do I think realistically will
Right.
work, right? So now you've got at least the month, maybe not the day, but you have the month or months that you want to release in, right? So that's step three. That's easy. And maybe that's step 4. No, that was step 4. To crossing out was step 3, and then finding the days is step 4. Step 5 is the hardest step, and I think a lot of authors sort of drop the ball on this one. It's looking at your turnaround times. How long does it take me to write a draft? How many drafts do I normally write? How long does it take my editor to book me? You know, do they need 3 months to book out? Do they need a week? Same with your cover designer. Can you book them right away, or do you need to get on their schedule months in advance? Am I going to do an ARC copy for this? If so, they're going to need the book maybe a month before it goes live. So now my due date is a month earlier. And so once you know sort of what all of your turnaround times are, you know, it takes me about 6 months to write a book, or it takes me, you know, a year. You have to know roughly how long things take so that you can work backwards from it. So if, you know that it's going to take you 4 months start to finish to finish a book, but you've set yourself up for a February release, that's probably not going to work. You're probably not going to make your goal. You're probably not going to do it. So if you know how long it takes you to do something in pencil, I use just a generic, map out of a year, and then I can just write down, okay, August, I want to release here. And so I know, counting backwards, I need to have my final draft here. And if my third draft takes me 2 months, I need to make sure I'm starting my third draft here. So I'm working backwards from that release date.
That's counting that you have a schedule that you can count on.
Yes, and it takes time to know how long it takes you to write something. So, when you're first starting out, give yourself more time than you think you're going to need. If you don't really know for sure, maybe 4 releases in a year isn't something you strive for. If you've never done that before,
oh yeah, for sure.
If you've only ever published once a year, push yourself maybe to 2 and see on paper, can you do it?
Yeah, and then see if I have noticed on the whole, and this is not just writers, but creatives on the whole tend to be overly optimistic as to the time frame that it takes to produce a product.
Yes. You have to be realistic. If you want your writing goals to come to fruition, you have to be realistic with yourself. If it really does take you 6 months to write a first draft, be honest with yourself so that you're not setting yourself up for failure. Right?
Well, you're also building, if you're honest with yourself, you can be honest with your readers.
Yeah.
And you want to be as honest with your readers as possible, because that helps build trust. And the more trust that you can build in your readership,
absolutely,
the more likely they are going to stick with you for the long term.
Yeah.
I was told years ago that if I didn't publish 4 books a year, that people would just stop buying my books.
They'd forget about you.
They'd forget about me.
But
I'm lucky if I mean 2 books a year is big for me.
That's a heavy lift for you.
Yes,
because
it is.
You're very, very busy.
Right. So but I still have a healthy newsletter list.
You have healthy sales.
My sales are, my sales aren't like astronomical, and they probably would be better if I was releasing more books in a year.
Right.
But I still have steady, constant sales every day.
Yeah.
I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't have a sale or 2 or 5 or 15.
But your readers have come to expect that when you do put out a book, it's going to be a good book, and they're going to enjoy it, and they're going to enjoy the content. So, maybe they don't mind waiting that year for your book because, they know that it's going to be good. Right. So,
right. So quality does matter, especially if you're not releasing a lot.
Right.
If you're the less, I would say, quality of your book is going to increase exponentially if you're not releasing books quickly. Like
Yeah.
the longer between your releases, the really the better your book quality has to be. And that's not to say it needs to be like a New York Times bestseller or anything,
Right.
but it needs to be have good pacing, it needs to be a good story, it
Sure.
needs to be edited well, it needs to have a good cover. So all those things do matter, and they matter, in my opinion, more so between longer releases.
Yeah,
So
and that's that. I mean, those the things that you mentioned, the cover and the the story, those are like, getting your editor, getting a copy editor. Those are all part of your planning
mhm,
year to make sure that you have one carved out the time for these
mhm.
designers. But, and here's the other piece that I think a lot of authors forget about, the budget. Are you going to have the
Oh
budget
gosh,
to
yes.
pay for the editor and the cover
I'm
designer
sorry.
when you need them? Because you might
So
be saying,
expensive.
"Oh yeah, we're ready for the cover designer," but then like, "Oh, I'm not going to have any money yet because I haven't had a release for what, whatever at X, Y, or Z." So that's something to factor in as
Yeah.
well in the planning is budget wise. Am I going to have the resources I need to market the book, pay for the designer, pay for the cover, and so you've got to
Mhm.
be realistic with that too, because
Yeah.
again, you're going to set yourself up for failure and we want you to have a successful writing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things that go into planning out your new year, and budget is one of them because you have to, and budget not only with releases, but with the actual marketing of those books as well. Because how often are you going to run Facebook ads?
Mhm.
Are you going to BookBub ads, Amazon ads? Are you going to do, strive for a BookBub or a feature deal? Are you going to run free Booksy or, whatever that may
Yeah, and
be?
any of that stuff, is it gonna bump your newsletter, numbers up? And then now you're gonna have to be
Mhm.
paying for high, so it's all it's so many moving pieces
Yes, it really is, which is
that
why January, when you're planning, it can be, for the upcoming year, can be so stressful.
Yep.
You really do have to break it down and have a system. And the thing is the good thing is once you figure out your system and a system that works for you,
Yeah,
it is less stressful because
yeah,
then you, like you were saying, you have that seven
yeah,
point
yeah,
plan as to how you approach
right.
that. And I'm sure you have a similar system to how you approach really everything, not
Yeah,
just your book releases, but all the aspects of your yearly planning. And so once you have that structure in place as to what you do, it makes it so much easier
right,
because you
right,
just follow the steps.
right. Yeah, and I mean, if you can figure out sort of your monthly goals in a year, then you're just taking that monthly goal and you're going to your planner and say, "Oh, these are the things that I need to do in January." Okay, now what days in January am I going to do the things in that monthly goal? So if you're meeting your daily goals, you're meeting your monthly goals. And if you're meeting your monthly goals, you're meeting your yearly goals, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's all a matter of working backwards. It seems counterintuitive, but if you know
Yeah.
where you're going, you can map out how to get there.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways, for a lot of things, you really do have to work backwards. It's just in general as to how you want to accomplish anything. Let's just say, okay, not book related. Say that you want to lose 20 pounds in this year. You can't just say, "Oh, I want to lose 20 pounds," and just hope that in December you were 20 pounds lighter.
Right.
You have to go, okay, well, how do I break that down? Okay, to lose 20 pounds, that's how many pounds per month I need to lose. And then it's like, okay, what am I going to do in order to facilitate that goal in each month? So, are you going to maybe start eating better in January and
Right.
then maybe going for walking every day in February and then doing something else, adding some other healthy
Right.
habit to your list. And as you do those little things, you're not only working towards achieving that long-term goal, you're just overall setting yourself up for success.
Right.
And you're not going to show up in December and be like, where did the whole year go?
Right. And that's it. It's those long-term goals. And we are such an instant gratification sort of species, especially lately. We want results and we want them now. But it's really those small micro moves, those small things that you're doing on a daily basis that are inching you toward your goal, working in the background, that you don't even realize how far you're coming, because it's smaller tasks every day. And like you said, I work a full-time job. So if I'm going to be releasing 4 books in a year, I need to know exactly what needs to happen on what day. And I need to make sure that I'm scheduling at least one day off a week of catch up. Every week there's at least one day that I have a catch up, because I might screw up something or whatever, and then I have an admin day, so that, in theory, I have sort of 2 days that I could catch up writing wise, but one day I like to sort of like give my brain off in terms of needing to be creative. I'll just do the administrative, use the other side of the brain, but if I need to, I have 2 days that can play as catch up.
Right. Yeah. I try to when I was sitting down to do my goals for this things, again, trying to, because I take every year, I try to get better at it. I take what worked the previous year and continue doing that, and then what didn't work, I try to find something else that will work.
Yeah.
Or, okay, think about why didn't it work?
Right.
And then adjusting it as needed. And this, one of the things that did work for me last year, that then got like off the rails for various reasons, was me getting up at 5:30 in the morning to try to write. And I was doing really, really well.
I remember.
For a while. And things just, we ended up getting pulled to help my mom with her business, and that's in the evening, and so we weren't getting home until late, and it was throwing off my sleep cycle and all of that. So this year I am trying to re-implement my early morning writing schedule. So, but in order to do that means I have to go to bed at like 9:30 at night.
Yeah. I write in the morning too before I log in. And it means going to bed early and being disciplined in that way, and making sure I'm doing all the things that I need to do, because I do it like an hour before I log into work. So I need to be ready and good to go for work, so that I can just stop writing after my power hour is over and switch gears and go on to that. And that's something too, that in terms of like trying to figure out your goal setting, some people will really be like, I'm going to set a word count goal, right? And then, this is my word count goal. For me, I hated a word count goal. I tried that for a while, and I hated it. I was very anxious about it. And so I realized a word count goal isn't for me, but maybe a chapter goal is for me, or maybe a time goal is for me. Like, I have this much time, I'm going to use it, and whatever I get done in this time, I'm going to call that a win, right? So
yeah,
you got to find something that works.
See, and I'm a word count girl.
And a lot of people are. It's a great way to sort of manage your time. If you know that you want to write a 60,000 word manuscript, you can easily calculate, I have, 1 month to do it. This is how many words I need to write a day to do it. It's a great way to do time management. Just for me personally, it
doesn't work for you.
I couldn't do it. Right.
Yeah. It doesn't work for you. So, find what works for you, because there's no, you can see by just the two of us, we both
wide range.
Our planner, we're both planners. We both have extensive planners that we utilize every day, but we utilize them differently to achieve our goals. So it's just finding what works for you. It really is. And there's just no one way. There just isn't. So
in the last few minutes that we have here of our recording time, what would the thing, like if you had one piece of advice to give somebody that wanted to start planning out their writing year, what would you tell them to do? Like, do this first.
First, I would make a list, a small list. I would say you should pick, okay, I'm gonna steal this from somebody else because I was watching this last year and I thought it was really good. So she made a list of personal and professional categories. So she did like health and fitness was one category. She did finances in one category. She did I think it was like her home in another category and business in another category. So anyway, she had like 5 to 7 categories. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she picked one yearly goal for each category. One. That's it. One. So she ended up having like 5 to 7 goals, which is honestly, I know one goal per category doesn't sound like a lot, but when you say there's like 5 to 7 goals, that's a lot of goals for the things. And then she took those and broke them down between. But I would say first, if I had to, don't overwhelm yourself, I guess is the bottom line there. Yeah. Don't overwhelm yourself, because if you sit there and be like, okay, for my business goal, I want to write 10 books, and then I want to go to 12 conferences, and then I want to do this, basically making like 10 goals of out in that one category, you're either going to accomplish 1 or 2 and the rest of them are just going to fall away, or you may not even get any of them accomplished because you're so scattered on everything else that trying to get everything that you don't actually accomplish much of anything. So what about you? What would be your one piece of advice?
Step 1, get a planner. You can't start your planning year without something to write it down, right? You need some way to sort of mark your success path. And so if it takes you a while to find a planner that works for you, or one you think might work for you, then take that time, invest that time in yourself and in your career so that you can start making your goals happen. And if you need the list of the 7 things, we can put those down in the description box, and or you can just be like, all right, I know roughly one book that I want to do. I'm going to start planning to make it happen.
Now, Danielle, the that grid that you have for the months, is that something that you would be willing to share on our website?
Yeah. Just something I made. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. So if you're interested in checking it out, Danielle will put it on our website, and the link to the website is in the description. It's the description of every podcast episode. So if you're interested in checking it out and downloading it to utilize it in your yearly planning for your release of your books, there you go. That will help you.
That's right.
Well, next week we will have an all new subject. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet.
Plan.
One plan. Remember that, like, only doing one step at a time.
That's right.
It's like a week off.
That's next week's problem. We already solved it, but I don't need to remember it because it's next week.
Yeah, we go back to the Sherri doesn't think too much farther than a day ahead.
That's right.
So a week is like,
we've planned for it, but for whatever it is, I don't know. It'll be fun and exciting. And tune in next week.
Yeah, tune in next week for more Bound by Books. Bye.
Bye.
Wait! Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on our website, boundbybookspodcast.com.